が空に張り付いてら銀紙の星が揺れてら誰もがポケットの中に
G'day everybody and welcome back to the wonderful world of Anime Roulette, where we roll a random anime generator and we're forced to watch whatever comes up. And this week I was overjoyed. My co-host Ivy here, not so much.
Yeah, this one was a stretch for me.
Anyway,
It's a struggle.
Anyway, why was this a stretch? Well, Ivy here has a on-record distaste for idol shows. He also has an on-record distaste for egregious amounts of fan service. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we rolled I Wanna Be the Strongest in the World. Sekai de Ichiban Tsukyo Naritai.
Suyoko. Suyoko Naritai, yeah.
I want to be the strongest in the world.
I want to be the strongest in the world. Well, it doesn't actually have a pronoun, so it's just wanna be.
Yeah.
But,
Bicycles reference? Maybe. Anyway, point is...
That'd be fun.
Idol show. But it's not just any idol show. It is idol wrestling. That's right. A Japanese pop idol joins the world of female pro wrestling. And, oh my, there is fan service. Lots and lots of fan service.
Okay, so straight out the gate, I want to bring this up. The fan service in this is weird.
Right? It is
not... Okay, so, like, there's boobs and there's butts and there's plenty of, like, egregious sort of jiggles and etc. blah, 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 and all this kind of shit. And that's the shit that I have a documented history of hating. But it's so mundane.
Yeah, like apart from the shower scenes, it doesn't really get too aggressive, does it? It's just... Like,
it's just there. It's, like, stuff that, like, a teenage... I guess this is a shonen. Is it a shonen?
Yeah, it is. It is a shonen.
It runs in Comic Earthstar. Yeah, okay, shonen.
It is a shonen show. And, yeah, look, the thing is, it is all tits, all ass, and all toe of camel, shall we say. Right? It is literally all this is. And there are egregious shots of all of these angles, all the time. But the thing is, aside from the shower scenes where they're, of course, fully naked with the steam blocking the lower portion, obviously. Besides those, like, there really is... It's not... I would say, honestly, it's... with the exception of the uncensored bathroom sequences, I think Food Wars is honestly more racy when I think about it.
I'd say pretty much everything we've watched up until this point that has had fan service in it is more racy than this.
I'm going to crack open a cold one for this, boys. There you go. But yeah, seriously, though, it's just wild. Like, it's good. Like, it's honestly good. But at the same time, it's not aggressively fan servicey. It's just sort of like the same sort of angles that you would expect in an ecchi show. But apart from the basics, it doesn't push to, like... We ain't talking Valkyrie Drive. Valkyrie Drive was something else. Like, that was hentai, right?
That was just hentai with extra steps.
Honestly, I feel like, alright, we're jumping straight into criticisms. Like, I think that's a good point you bring up, Ivy, because now that I've had time to reflect on it, did I enjoy it? Absolutely. It's gratuitous fan service. I am a degenerate, so therefore I enjoyed it, sure. But, like... It's kind of like with the Endro effect, if you get what I mean, where it's like, if you have an idea, commit to it. Like, the one episode and character we liked in Endro, which was the show we've, I think, both unanimously blasted the hardest on our podcast here so far, was that it wasn't bad enough in a way that it was interesting, it was just boring. And there was only one episode we liked, which was the Cartado episode, right? Where they're talking about, you know, cards and that sort of thing, and how interesting that was, and the character's passion in it. When that show had an idea and wanted to run with something, it ran with it, right? This anime is an ecchi show, but it's trying not to get cancelled, so it doesn't go all the way. It only goes all the way in the OVAs, which I'm going to watch for science. So my opinion may change. But on the whole, like, it's going for the ecchi angle, but it just doesn't commit. It can't commit.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is necessarily like... I mean, this came out at the time of, like, the period of Kill la Kill, right? This is 2013.
Yeah.
Like, this is well and truly when we saw, like, this increase in shows that were just going ape shit. This aired at the same time as Kill la Kill. Yeah. Literally in the same season.
Which is why probably no one's ever heard of this show, because, like, quite frankly, why would you watch this when you can watch Kill la Kill? Like, honestly.
And, like... It's something that makes me sort of think, because it's like, this show, it feels more like an older ecchi show where it's like, ooh, there's a little bit of nipple here and there's a little bit of this here. And it's like, you know, like lots of panty shots, that sort of thing.
Kind of like the Love Hina angle kind of thing. Where it's
yeah. And like, we'll get into it later, but there's like some really high profile voice actors here. There's some really high profile voice actors here. And it's really weird because I've heard these voice actresses, because obviously like 99% of the cast is women. I've heard pretty much like each of the major playing characters, I've heard like them in not only their best roles, but also like other stuff that they've done, you know? I've watched so many like of these people in like different shows, and it just feels like they're phoning it in.
Yeah, like the main character, for example, is
voice acted by Ayana Takatatsu, who is best known for voice acting Nina Nakano and Azusa Nakano from K-On! Like,
not only that, like if you're talking like really big deal, like in terms of mainstream appeal, she's also Lifa or Suguha Kirigaya in Sword Art Online. She's Lifa.
Or, for the horny among us, she's also Kaneko Tojo from fucking DxD.
She's also in Kiss Exis and Oriemo, so like...
this is her territory, so it's a bit weird for her to be giving...
Although, to be fair, like, we're going a bit too deep early, but like, to be fair, I do feel like Sakura, the main character, voiced by Takatatsu, I do feel like she gave the best performance of the characters. I do feel like she was putting it in, because she's the pro tag. And
the voice actress I was most surprised to see here was Tamatsu Haruka.
Yeah, that was a bit wild.
As in Gintoki. Gintoki's voice actor at one point. Like 02 Asuna, like,
he plays Asuna in Sword Art Online.
Yeah, like, this is a high profile voice actor, and admittedly in a very different role for herself, doing the character, one of my favorite characters in the show, Kazuma Rio, who is the eternal jobber in this show, by the way. Like, the one thing I'll give to this show is that occasionally its wrestling stuff is really sort of on point,
yeah,
I guess.
It's the best part of the show. Like, like, you are here to watch idol wrestling. I suppose we should talk about the plot, shouldn't we? Let's double back. So basically, the plot of this show is there is an idol group called Sweet Diva. I'm an idol fanboy. I love idol shows, so hell yeah. And they go to a publicity stunt where they go to a wrestling ring. And the two main girls of the Sweet Diva idol group go to this wrestling ring, and they meet the badass. They meet Kazuma Rio, right? They meet her. And she's like, you're a bunch of idols playing around. This is a serious business. If you're going to play hard, right? So the second girl jumps in. So the second center. So you've got first center, which is our pro tag, Sakura. And then you have her off-sider, which is Elena. They have a rivalry going for the front and center position of an idol group. Being center in an idol group means you're the star, right? For those of you who aren't into idol anime. So their rivalry for center in Sweet Diva, their idol group. And Elena goes in and fights Kazuma Rio. And she gets her shit rocked. Like, actually rocked. And Sakura, seeing her best friend and rival get chat on like this, decides, I'm going to challenge this girl to a professional wrestling bout. Like, without any experience in wrestling, without any knowledge or background, without any of the physical training. She's a dancer which means she's got the athleticism required, but she doesn't have any of the experience, the skills, or the training, and she doesn't know how to take a punch or a kick or a full-on tackle, right? So she rocks up to take on this actual pro wrestler, who, of course, rocks her shit. And as a result, she vows vengeance and says, hey, I'm going to become a pro wrestler and avenge this defeat and avenge the honor of Sweet Diva, right? And so she quits being an idol temporarily, so she says temporarily, to be a professional wrestler. And that's the plot. And we follow her adventures becoming a professional wrestler. And it's because it's professional wrestling, it is technically a sports anime. So it follows all the tropes of being a sports anime. But I think you'll agree with me here. Like, aside from the actual sport itself, as we mentioned, the sport itself being the best part, as a sports anime, this one fails.
Yeah, look. Okay, so I watch a lot of sports anime. I love sports anime. So when we went into this, I was like, okay, it's a sports anime. I can at least do this, right? This show, doesn't follow the formula, so
it's trying to be an ecchi show and an idol show.
60 matches without winning.
That doesn't happen. She goes 60 matches without winning.
She goes 60 matches without winning, and they didn't fire her. That is, like, ridiculous.
And not only that, she keeps getting beaten by the same move.
Yeah, and what pisses me off, and this is something that's fundamental in this show, is that it doesn't feel like wrestling a lot of the time, right? Like, it's
WWE. It feels like a mixture of WWE
it definitely
and
feels
MMA.
like, yeah, because they keep kicking each other in the face. But what, like, really weirds me out here is that it feels more like a screaming simulator, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
There was more time spent on screaming in pain in this show than wrestling moves and, like, you know, discussions of tactics, discussions of ways to improve, counters, like, all these kinds of things that come with wrestling. You know, Sakura starts out and she knows how to do a drop kick. Like a flying kick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, her idol background does lend her to doing athletic moves, but she doesn't know any of the, like, serious holds or anything like that. I think that's what bothers me about it, right? Because she goes 60 matches without winning, number one. Number two, she gets beaten by the same move every time, right? At no point, like, as we were saying at the time, in sports anime, if you lose, like, 2 games in a row, there's a massive training montage, right? There's a training montage. There's, like, 3 episodes of development. There's building your team of skilled players, or your rival helps you get up because it's not like they're your friend or anything, Baka, right? With Kazumaria, right? There's none of this. It's literally, she loses 60 games, and then her senpai finally decides to teach her. I'm like, no.
Yeah, okay. Like,
she would have started teaching her, like, 3 or 4 losses in. Like,
that is what blew my mind the most, is like, because that kind of like, okay, so say there's a hypothetical world where you could lose 60 professional wrestling matches in a row and not get, like, booted, right?
Yeah.
There is a financial and honor-based incentive for her to not lose like this.
100%. She should have, like, is it her pride? Like, I know that even my arrogant piece of shit ass, when I'm playing video games, if I'm getting my shit rocked that bad, I go to find someone better than me and ask them how to get better. Like, at no point did she ask her senpais how to do better. Like, that is the core part of every major sports anime. Like, Food Wars is technically a sports anime in a lot of ways. Girls and Panzer is a sports anime. Like, and in both of those shows, like, when they get beaten, the first thing they do is look for someone more experienced to teach them how to get better. And that's what Sakura should be doing, but she doesn't. She sits there until one of her senpais takes pity on her. And you're right. It doesn't, like, it does a lot of, there's a lot of good stuff here in, like, giving names to the different moves they're performing, like, showing how those moves are used and what holds they are. It's all really well done. The only problem is, we're not given any background to her learning these moves or learning these maneuvers, and the actual fights themselves don't involve, like, you'll agree with me. I think this is one of the reasons why you and I both love sports anime so much. The fights in sports anime are more tactical and more intense than the toughest of battle shonen.
In a lot of ways, like obviously there is like, especially now, like I would have made that generalization a few years ago, maybe, but right now, obviously, it's getting harder and harder to do that because a lot of the current generation, not even Demon Slayer, I'm talking about fucking Jujutsu Kaisen, man. That shit's like they're like out there with the galaxy brain shit. They're like
they're making big brain plays. But if you go back to say like Dragon Ball or Naruto or like, I mean, Naruto has its moments, but like if you go back to all of those big shonen battle series of the past and then compare them to the ones now, like when you compare them to the sports anime go through like plays and tactics and how I can do this. And there's this really great moment where we get my best girl, the spunky, enthusiastic young Kohai, when Sakura actually finally establishes and gets a few wins and becomes a proper wrestler. She gets a up-and-coming Kohai who's actually coming over from karate, right? And she has, like straight out the gate, she's coming in with, like, kicks and punches and dodges and weaves. And when Sakura makes a move for, like, a hold or a choke or whatever, she counters using her karate moves and, like, bounces around. I'm like, that's awesome. Why wasn't Sakura doing this? Why wasn't Sakura getting training from her senpais? Why wasn't there 2 or 3 episodes of Sakura getting training from her senpais in, oh, if someone puts you in this hold, you do this reversal, and doing that. And so she's doing, like, the tactics and strategy of the sport and then countering holds. But as if he said, all this seems to be is Sakura gets trapped in a hold that she doesn't know how to counter, sits there sits there in pain, and her only advice from her coaches is endure the pain, go for the rope, and crawl away and go for the rope. No!
Which, by the way, the first time, that's good. Like, the first time we see her actually pull it off is good. It takes altogether too long to get there. Pacing-wise, this series is horrible.
Yeah.
But watching Sakura, like, do that first grab where they do the cool animation on her hand grabbing the rope, very cool. And that makes sense when she's still an amateur pro wrestler. You know, she's on the lower levels. But as she gets better, she still gets the same fucking shit happening to her over and over. And it feels like, and like, okay, when you watch sports anime, the most enjoyable part is watching them take a, like, curve, right?
Yeah, best.
Most of the time, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. There are certain exemptions to this, like major, where they have to throw, like, you know, dips and curves through other means, like the team is worse than you are, or like this sort of thing, right? But here, we're starting with someone who has no experience. It's the perfect setup for a gradual increase. But the curve here doesn't make fucking sense.
No, like...
So she's really bad for ages, right?
Like, for 4 or 5 episodes, she's... of this 12-episode anime, for 4 or 5 episodes, she's trash. And then she eventually gets her first win in, like, episode 5.
6, isn't it? Like, because her first win, she wins the first match against Rio, and I'm pretty sure that's episode 6, Revenge Match.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so it takes her half the series to get her shit together. Granted,
she just gets beaten. She just gets beaten up and down all through this, mind you. You don't see a single win.
And, like... Look, the thing is, I don't know if he was turned off by the fan service. So
I mean, there's not so much the fan service that, like, okay, look, the fan service here didn't interest me at all. And it was a factor in me disliking the show, but my criticisms range across the board for this show.
Yeah, but, like, you gotta admit, like, for the first 3 episodes, I kind of dug the pacing. Because you had the establishment, and then you had her, like, learning and training. And that scene where she gets beaten up, where she gets hazed by the whole crew, and she just gets slammed, like the intro they have to pass their intro test where you have to get slammed 100 times by everybody in the group. Giggity. Like, that was good. And I was like, okay, we've got some development. She's going to have her first match. She's going to have her first 1 or 2 matches, which we're going to see a montage of. And she's going to get her shit rocked. Then we're going to have a senpai development section. And then we're going to have proper matches from here on out. I was expecting episode 4 to be like, okay, she's having her first debut or whatever. She gets her shit rocked. completely. Fine. Episode 5, she'll go to her senpai and ask for help and tips and tricks, and she'll have another match where she'll do better, but she'll still lose. And then 6, revenge match comes on, and she'll be like, okay, now I'm getting serious. You insulted my friend. I'm here for the moment. This is what I've been working towards. We're going to fight. It's going to be a 2-episode fight. It's going to be intense, and then she's going to win, and we're going to have happy feelings, and then she's going to continue her career. That's what I was expecting. That's what... Yes, it's a formula, but Ivy and I are sluts for sports anime. Give us sports anime. Give us sports anime. Like, this is what we live for. Incidentally, after we finish recording this, do you want to go watch Night in the Area? Because I do.
So it should be emphasized that I got Pack here into Night in the Area a few weeks ago, and we had a great time. We watched like a ridiculous amount of it. I think we watched all of season 12 episodes in one day, in one like sitting, basically.
We just went.
We just went for it because that show is fucking like, for all of the stupidity, all of the like sort of hacky sort of sports cliches and the like. It is, and it's formulaic, etc. It throws the world's biggest spanner into the works and is so stupid and funny that you can't help but love it. And on the other hand, it keeps you engaged and it keeps you watching as they improve. Like, he struggles a lot to improve as the show goes on. Also, he gets an unnecessary boost from in the stupidest way. But the point remains is that he follows a like gradual increase. But with Sakura, it's like flat line, no improvement. She doesn't improve in her first 60 matches at all. Like, there's a bump, right? There's a little bump at the start where she learns how to do like basic wrestling shit and then gets jumped in to the wrestling team, right?
Yeah.
Then it flatlines and stays there. It stays on that plateau for fucking 4 episodes. 5, okay, up until episode 4, right? It's flatlined, and then in episode 5, it starts to increase. Finally, in episode 6, we fucking get some development. But this is janky because we've watched her go from being unable to compete against low-level wrestlers to beating a high-level wrestler.
Yeah, and that's just like...
That's outrageous, right?
Like,
it makes sense in sports with teams because then you've got the team backing you up. You can have the, like, rookie who isn't consistent or stuff, right? Like Diamond No Ace. But here, it just comes off as really stupid that she loses to fucking everybody. Everybody, including the same people on multiple occasions. And then she comes and beats one of the best in the league, right?
Yeah.
And then she's suddenly respected as a fucking, like, serious senpai. And it's like, but she beat her, but, like, she's still 60-1.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
But that's the thing, like, she didn't, like, it wasn't until the first half of, like, episode, like, or the latter half of episode 5, leading into episode 6, where she finally resisted against, like, Hornet or whatever, the bad guys, the evil crew or whatever. She resisted against them, and then, like, she still lost, but she, like, put up a fight for the first time. In her 60th match, she finally put up a fight. And they're like, oh, she still lost, but hey, she showed her spirit. Look at this. Which means for the 59 matches up to that point, she just got clapped. And I'm like, what the, like, no, that doesn't happen. So yeah, pacing, terrible. Absolutely awful. That being said, after episode 6, where, like, she finally wins that, and yeah, like, that was horrible pacing. She should have, like, gradually curved up. But now that she was at that, the wrestling from that moment on was pretty good. Like,
it got better. Like, I'll say that. It did get better because obviously she's not always eternally in the fucking Boston crab.
And going, Itai.
Oh, God, man.
So many times. And,
like, we joked about how many times we heard, like, kurashite in, I heard kurashite when I was watching Samurai Champloo. Here, you hear the fucking phrase, like, just the word itai so much. Like,
it's just her screaming in pain over and over again. And I'm like, this is the show's kink, obviously. But, like,
like, this is, like, every ecchi show chooses a kink unless they want to pick all the kinks. And this one picked pain, and sort of dom sub like dynamics which is natural in sort of wrestling, you know, when you get into like shipping of people who ship like WWE and stuff. But that's what pissed me off about this show is it doesn't know what kind of wrestling it wants to be.
Yeah, it doesn't want to, like, I was watching is it actual wrestling or is it WWE?
Like there's moments where it's like very clearly inspired by like jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, and then it switches and it's like WWE and there's like foes and assassins coming in and like choking people and restraining them so they can't fight back. And that's okay, so we're WWE now. And then there's other moments where it's just straight up MMA, like they're just kicking each other in the face and punching each other. I'm like, hold on, I'm pretty sure you can't do that in wrestling.
That's what I'm saying, right? Wrestling is like wild, like the problem with MMA is MMA is scripted, of course. Like, or not MMA, WWE. WWE is scripted. MMA is an actual fight. And they're trying to merge the two. And I get it. And idol wrestling in Japan does have that, where it is an actual competitive sport, but they also have like you know, characters and stories, right? That so it is an actual sport, but they live the persona. So it wrestling in Japan, like idol wrestling in Japan, is kind of like a hybrid. But
okay, I'll be damned. I didn't realize that kicks were actually legal moves in wrestling.
Yeah, but they don't let you go full MMA in idol wrestling. Like they don't let you, like, you can kick, you can do, like, I'm guessing you can do jabs and blocks, but like you can't just full on wail on someone, right? You can't like it, and then it like flurries between the two, like, and it's also like you have foes joining in, you have people jumping in from out of the ring, you have, like, as I said, at one point, like, was it in the fight between her and the world champ or whatever, we were like screaming, "Get the chair!" Like,
yeah, no, that was in the final fight between her rival and her, where like they're like finished the fight and stuff, and then the leader of all of this was really confused about her role in it. She's just the best, meant to be like one of the best wrestlers in the world, and she's sort of like Vince McMahon, and she starts walking down, and I was just like, I just out of nowhere, we were like dead silent. I was like, oh my god, it's Jackal Tojo, and she's got the chair.
Jackal Tojo, that's her name. Also, the big boss, who's also the big pro wrestler, has the last name Tojo, which gives me a little bit of a giggle. But like, the characters in this anime, right? Let's talk about characters briefly. Like this, like, I think by this point in our podcast, we've just abandoned structure. We just talk about what we want to talk about. Let's talk about the characters.
Yeah, I think it's better to talk like freely like this about it.
Sakura is like, it's annoying, but as a character, she's not offensive. She's just pro-tag A. She's not bad, but she's not good either. She's kind of like, it's like very
she's
Endro.
Just there. She is just there. Like, at any point in this show, like, Sakura is the least interesting person in the room. Like,
yeah, she is. She's just pro-tag.
Like, if you've got like her and Elena in the room, Elena's more interesting because Elena's story would, guess what? It's that classic time again. Elena would have been the better protagonist here.
Yeah. 100%.
Rio, when Rio's in the room, apart from the fact that they just like tank Rio's character later in the show because they don't know what to do with characters here at all. Like, characters, like, once they've like lived up to their one purpose in this, become completely useless. Like look at like Mizaki, the senpai who like trains Sakura to be like a better wrestler and like how to do her own like special move and all this sort of stuff.
Yep, Mizaki she's like, you want to know what? Like, when I was watching this anime, like the whole time, I was looking at her character design and what the role she was playing in the story, and I kept thinking to myself, wow, Maho Nishizumi from Girls and Panzer has really gone in a different career path, right? Because she's like the older sister. She's like the older sister, stern, not very like there's this heavily implied backstory that the two big name wrestlers that are operating behind the scenes, which is Misaki and the person who was the Blue Panther, the mysterious masked one, Judy Sanada, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were both. It's sort of like all of this has happened once and will happen again. They were both idols in the same idol group and did the same thing, and that Misaki was like the stern older sister, and Elena was more like Judy. Like, you know, she was sort of like the Kohai, like Elena is, like coming up, trying to be center, but you know, the cool and calm and collected senpai always held top spot, which is really weird. Sakura is anything but cool, calm, and collected, but she's not anything. But like, Misaki really did remind me of Maho from Girls and Panzer, where she pops up at important points and does her thing, and then fades away into the background. But unlike Maho, she doesn't remain interesting or relevant or fun, or she's not deep. Like, this character, like, it may sound weird for me to say this, but Misaki doesn't have the depth of Maho from Girls and Panzer, even though she looks
None of these characters have any depth.
at all. None.
At all.
Which is a real shame, because Kazuma, like, your best girl, Kazuma, is Rio's great. Like, dark-skinned professional wrestling tomboy girl, like, mwah! Yes.
Okay. Let's bring this to the criticism that I had while we were watching the show, which is, why do none of these girls have the bodies of wrestlers apart from Kazuma?
Yeah, Kazuma's a wrestler. You can tell she's like ready to fucking fight. Like, the others aren't. Like, Sakura still has her massive bouncy boys, right? There's the bouncers, the big bouncy things, right? But throughout her training, she doesn't develop any abs or any muscles at all. She just sort of stays idly, right?
Yeah. There was a shot near the end of the show where I thought for a moment that they'd given Sakura broader shoulders to represent, you know, obviously she's doing a lot of wrestling. She's gonna have broad shoulders from, like, that kind of musculature development. But no, I just think it was just, like, it just happened to be a frame that I spotted that looked slightly broad-shouldered.
Like, the only two characters in this show who made any sense to me as wrestlers were, of course, Rio Kazuma, because she looked like one. She was tough tomboy brawler. Look, we stand dark-skinned tomboys on this channel. Like, we stand. So, absolutely. The other one was the...
Look. I don't discriminate. I'll accept both boys and girls who are dark-skinned and, like, tanned and dark-skinned boys in a manga. Because there's some great ones out there. We got Food Wars cracking out. We got, Hayama from Food Wars, etc. You know, I love that I couldn't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but there are other ones out there that are good. I swear, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass.
I mean, like, Nagatoro kind of counts, I suppose.
Yeah, like, oh man, that's a whole discourse. That's a whole discourse in and of itself. I mean, there's the dude from Tokyo Revengers whose name eludes me right now. Oh man, what's his name? Izana, even though he's not really that. Oh, yeah, he's meant to be Brazilian. Yeah, I'll say that.
Yeah,
I'm
100%. Like, also, quick shout out to the Spanish team from Girls and Panzer. You'll know what I'm talking about, those who've watched it. Anyway, their uniforms are money. Anyway, the other character that makes sense is Moe Fukuoka, the karate girl. Like, same thing. Like, she has, like, an athletic sort of combat
we disagree. Build. She does have a combat build, I will give her that. However, this is where we strictly disagree. We strictly disagree on this. Because for Pac, she is the best girl.
100%. Let's go. Spunky Kohai.
I loathed her time on screen. Not because of her character type, not because of how she acted. I loathed it because, and this you have to agree with me, is the writing method they used for her was fucking infuriating.
Yeah.
So, for the audience, we're watching this episode where they introduce the Kohai character, right? And she is introduced as, like, you know, this karate world champion, and she repeats everything Sakura did coming up, right?
100%.
Except slightly better, right? Because she's actually got, like, fighting experience. And they repeat beat for beat stuff that we have already gone through. And then have the butt of the joke is that whenever Sakura wants to be, like, a wise, like, senpai, the Kohai undermines her by, like, already knowing what she's going to say.
Which is pretty funny.
Which is pretty funny the first time, but I got very tired of it very quickly. on.
I like her. Like, look, yeah, it was annoying. I kind of get where they were going for rather. And if this was like a 24 episode like long form show, I would have been okay with it. But it felt like a bit of wasted screen time. Also, because
we just did this. Why are we doing it again?
Not only that, can we talk about the madness? The fact that there were 60 fights, the fact that there was like training cycles. Can we appreciate this show has worse time skips than Sword Art Online? Okay,
Yeah,
it's so jarring.
There's two really stupid moments in this series, and the first is, as we've extensively discussed, the fact that it's 60. She has 60 matches where she just doesn't win at all. The second is that apparently from the instant that she had was it before her match with Rio, the first one? No. Yeah, it was. I think that's what it was revealed in the end of the series, where she was like, "Oh, I've been training since you had that fight, right?"
Yeah, it was with Eleanor, right? Eleanor,
with Eleanor.
Eleanor, the offsider, is actually the big bad at the end of the series. Spoiler: she's the masked crusader. She's the one who she's been training all this time because she wants to beat Sakura, so she will quit pro wrestling and come back to the idol group. Because she feels like she's not good enough to be the leader of the idol group, so she wants Sakura back. Right?
Yeah.
She wants her friend back, and she misses her friend, and
thus we are expected to we are expected to believe that full-time idol Elena has somehow built a schedule where she can train to be a she doesn't fight, but she trains to be a full-time a pro wrestler, right? In addition to her regular idol training and practice and performances and everything else that comes with being an idol.
No. Just
no.
No.
I'm sorry. And this brings us to the conclusion of the show, which is even more outlandish, which is that they both do this.
Yeah, they have decided, at the end of the show, they decide, hey, we're so good at wrestling, but we're also so good at being idols. Why don't we do both? And I'm like, I'm sorry. I love a happy ending, and it's a happy ending, and I'm all about it. More wrestling, more gratuitous fan service, more happy good times doing this sort of thing. Excellent. All about it, but there needs to be something to justify it. Okay, just for a reference. I know it's a cringe topic, but I'm going to use it for reference because it's the most popular one. In terms of idol culture, among those of us in the West who aren't into idol anime, so those of you who aren't in idol anime, they haven't got the brain rot that I have. The most common exposure to idols you would have would be the HoloLive VTubers, right? Have you seen their fucking stream schedules? They're 4 or 5-hour streams a week. And then you've got Callie, Mori Calliope, who's producing music and doing the art and the thumbnails for all of her own videos. All of these idols, just VTubers, not proper full idols where they have to dance and go on tours and shit as well. Just VTubing idols have a 10-hour-a-day schedule. Real life idols, the ones who are on circuit, have 12 to 14-hour days.
And that's light.
And that's light for idols. And on top of all that, they have no personal time, no personal life, because they can't get boyfriends or other partners, for those of them that are into that, because there are rumors of that going on. Okay, look, if you're not allowed to hang around with boys, well, yeah. Point is,
to be fair, that is actually a genius move from management in this case, because it means that the girls won't have any time to hang around with boys.
Exactly, right? They can't have boyfriends because it will hurt their image, which makes Yuri baiting in idol shows really popular and also industry accurate from the rumors I've been hearing. Okay, the other part of it is, of course, that they're doing 14-hour schedules just to maintain their because think about it, an idol performance is, you've got choreography, you've got the music, you've got dancing, you've got singing, you've got publicity, you've got advertising, you've got interviews, you've got meetings, you've got meetup events for fans, you've got autograph signings, you've got so much shit. Your schedule is packed as an idol, and it is all year round. Okay, and you expect me to believe that they are able to do this and go on the pro wrestling circuit, which is also publicity, signing autographs, training, right? These girls won't sleep. They physically cannot sleep. If they're going to do both of these, they are unable to sleep, they're unable to eat, they're unable to shower. They won't have any time to do any of this. It's completely ridiculous. And it irritates me to a small extent, because I feel that the implication that they can do both undermines the hard work that idols and pro wrestlers do every day. Because they work really fucking hard, man. and the idea that they can do both. Like, no. That is the stupidest part of this whole show.
It's definitely asking... It's asking a lot of you to suspend your disbelief.
Like, there's no way. I mean, are there really any other interesting characters, like, besides the...
No.
I mean, Jackal Tojo, the big important world champion, is literally like... He's like the, she's like the star player in frickin', Kuroko no Basket, where he like shows up for one episode or two and then like disappears again.
Well, like, so much of this feels like somebody writing what they kind of like from like wrestling cliches, but that's it. Like, it's like, yeah, this happened. Oh, like intruding person with the mask on who's like an unknown wrestler, that sort of thing, right? And actually, it's all along, it's been your rival. Oh my god!
No, the funniest thing about this whole show is, I know you're gonna disagree with me fundamentally because of on principle here, but I feel like if they had actually written this manga, because that's the craziest thing about this anime, it adapts the whole manga. Right? If they had written this manga out in a conventional sports anime format and done it the same way that you would do all the formulaic sports anime, just around fan service idol wrestling, and then lent into the fact that it's WWE, right? I feel like with like a 30 to 40 episode count like your standard sports anime, I reckon this could have been fire. I reckon this could have been straight fire. Because, like I don't have anything against, like, the problem with the characters is, as we've been saying, they're all perfectly good in my view. I know you don't agree with that, but, like, as far as I'm concerned, all these characters are perfectly good. It's just that we don't have enough time to expand on them, and they're used to drive the plot rather than being part of the plot, if that makes sense. They're there for a reason, then they leave. And it's so annoying, because I would actually go out of my way. Like, if there was okay, we're getting dangerously into sum up and review territory, but the point is, I liked the characters. They were perfectly fine. It's just the show didn't do anything with them. And, like, it didn't feel like a sports anime, but at the same time, when it was being a sports anime, like the final fight, for example, when it was actually being a sports anime with stakes on the line, with a fight that wasn't just, oh, I'm in pain, how am I going to get out of this hole to the rope? It was actually hit, counter, special move, counter, like pin, counter. Like, when it was actually being a proper sports anime, I was having a blast. Like, I was cheering along when there was suplexes and shit going on. When Sakura got her ass in gear in her fights, like when Sakura joined the fight properly and there was like suplexes and kicks and actual wrestling moves going on, I was having the time of my life. And when they started doing the WWE shit where they're like fighting outside the ring and jumping off and then they've got the whole show thing going on, like, I remember doing like when the world champion has her fight with Sakura as like an exhibition fight. She comes in like this Western outfit with a cowboy hat. And like, I couldn't help it. I had to hit him with the, oh yeah, coming at you live. It's Macho Man. I'm stepping on the stage. When you see with those big milkies hanging in front of you, it allows me to come out and bring you the cream of the crop. And when the fight happens, the cream rises to the top. Because I'm the cream of... Like, you know, it's like when it was leaning into that WWE ridiculousness, it was excellent. And that's where I'm going to go. Like, also, opening, The whole soundtrack was just
Can we talk about the fact that the opening sounds like it's ripped off from No
yeah,
Game, No Life?
Yeah. Like, I don't want to sum up before talking about the music, because this is one complaint I have. How do you have an idol song with shit music?
Whoa. Hold on. No Game, No Life came later.
Oh my god, you're right. No Game, No Life ripped off this anime. Holy shit.
That's clearly what happened. It couldn't be anything else. It's clearly they ripped off. It's clear that
No, seriously. Fucking... This is something we've got to talk about. I almost went to the sum up before talking about it. Quickly, animation. It's 2013 run of the mill. Like, there's nothing special. Like, it is dead set average early 2010s anime. Like,
yeah, it is like squarely in. If you've seen an ecchi show from this era, this is what they looked like.
Yeah.
And this is okay. This was one of the things that I criticized while we were watching it, but I pointed out a lot of the shots, like, because of fan service, we prioritized looking at the butts or the boobs rather than like the moves that they were doing. And I was like, there's so much more that could be done here, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And this is the thing: if you're here for if you go. As far as I'm concerned, if I'm watching a sports anime, I care about the sport enough to, want to see the sport, right? I don't care if it's ping pong, fucking, tennis or soccer or football, depending on where you're from.
Football.
Yes, it is football, but we've got American listeners and, we've got to cater to the Americans. You're wrong. But... if you go into it, you should be able to learn that. You should be able to learn about the sport and be coached through the sport and, see the best parts of the sport through sports anime. And, sometimes this can be annoying. You've got, 12-year-olds doing soccer moves, football moves that, took, professional football players, decades to get right. But that's fine. It's anime. There's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief you can get away with, right? Here, I don't feel like I've really learned all that much.
The moves they used and shit are just standard moves we've seen in WWE. There's no and when we see them, you have to have I feel like watching this, you have to at least have a basic knowledge of WWE before you go in. I'm not the biggest wrestling fan, but all of us grew up with WWE and what went on in there. So, we kind of have an understand about the moves. And when you see the moves being performed and they give the name, it's oh, so that's what that's called. But you've seen them all before, right? There's no technical talk about what moves are used to counter what, how you get out of a certain hold or whatever, how you do this, how you counter that. There's none of that. It's literally just they either magically learn or she just pushes through the pain screaming itai until she reaches the rope. And you get lots of close-up shots of her writhing around going it hurts while looking at her boobs or her ass until she gets the rope, right? And then the fight resumes, right? But on the whole, there's one thing that really irritated me about this more than anything, and it's the one thing that everyone will be confused at me about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I am watching a sports anime, and it's letting me down on the sports anime. It could save itself if the idols got a fair shake. Because the idol group looked perfectly good. Sweet Diva looked fun. I liked the character designs. I thought their outfits were cute. And I thought they had a really good opening with the really catchy sort of tune when they opened up, right? That's it. How do you have an idol anime with no good music? It's the whole point of idol anime.
What was it? Fanfare?
Yeah, that's it. They only have one song. This is an idol anime. I don't care. I know it's got pro wrestling. And again, it's the aesthetics that are not doing it for me. Everyone else, because she's pro tag, she's got the same jumpsuit she wears for the whole show because she's pro tag. It's like Deku with his suit; he never changes it, even though he should upgrade. Right in My Hero, it's the same with this girl. She rolls up in the same jumpsuit. all the other pro wrestlers have their, like, practice outfits and their, like, you know, they're sort of in the ring outfits, but all of them have got their own costumes, which they come in with capes and masks and, like, pyro shooting behind them, and they've got their own intro song, which is really badass, right? And they march on with, like Kazuma Rio has, like, this really cool sort of, like, feathery cape thing. Like, I was like, yeah! Why doesn't our pro tag have a whole episode dedicated to crafting her look? Excuse me. Crafting her look. And then, because she's a former member of Sweet Diva, she can have one of her intro songs. You can introduce one of the other Sweet Diva songs as her intro music, like a really hardcore Sweet Diva song. Like, every idol group experiments with, like, rock and roll and metal to a small extent for at least one or two songs, right? Like, I mean, Fran Shushu from Zombieland Saga, the best idol anime ever made, dying on that hill. Or, like, Love Live has it as well a few times, like Love Live Sunshine, I think it is, has it. But they could have gotten a really rock, guitar-heavy Sweet Diva song that they could have performed and done in the show, and then have her be that be her intro music, right? Like, and she could have an idol-themed cape and outfit, like with the Sweet Diva logo on her cape, or whatever. They could have done something really cool with that, but no, she's got the same jumpsuit. She just walks into the same generic intro music. Like, a whole part of being a pro wrestler is you have this image. Like, John Cena has his famous "Here comes the champ. You can't see me." He smashes out, and, like, there's pyro, and he's got his baseball cap, his green t-shirt, and he's like, what's up, right? Like, Sakura doesn't do any of that. She just shows up and jumps in the ring, and she's like, "Hi, I'm an idol, and I'm wrestling." And then we go, you have an idol anime with no idol songs, an ecchi anime that doesn't ecchi very well, and a sports anime that doesn't sports very well. Is what you got.
Yeah, I've been sitting here quietly, sort of just musing on this, and this kind of show comes around quite a lot, right? Like, there's always going to be shows each season that aren't as good as other shows, right? There's always going to be anime that aren't up to the cut, and this one, to me, emphasizes what a below average series looks like. Too often, we get in the mindset that, like, and this is, like, obviously a running theme here, I think we're so stuck in the idea that anything below a 5 is terrible, and I don't like this show, but it's not good, and it's not average, but it's also not, like, the worst thing I've ever seen.
Like, again, like,
and this emphasizes the need for low ratings, because there needs to be a differentiation between Evil or Live, which is the closest I've ever seen to a 1, alongside Konbini Koreshi.
Like, I need to release that special lost episode of Evil or Live, because you guys need to understand just how bad that was. That
is the baseline for the worst thing I have ever seen. This doesn't come close to that. Like, there's, like, average animation. There's, like, the characterization non-existent. Blah, 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 blah. What I'm saying is that this is why we need, like, wiggle room, right? Calling this a 6 to me is giving it way too much credit. Calling it a 5 is giving it too much credit. That's why I like to have my wiggle room. That's why I'm so, like, fucking... Okay, I can't use that word on YouTube. I'm so obsessive about rankings, because I find it more interesting to understand the tapestry of anime through this lens. And this anime helps make other sports anime better, because you understand what makes a good sports anime by watching this and realizing what a bad sports anime looks like.
Yeah, and, like, I'll be honest with you, looking at this, it's one of those things where, again, I'm having the quandary with the rating system as well, because we couldn't be mean about Endro because it was just there, right? But at the same time, this anime, in my view, which I'll go into in a second when we do our ratings, but this anime, in my view, passed the criteria of more than just there. And it wasn't offensively bad or irritating or drawn out like Angels of Death was, right? Angels of Death was a slog, right? That was a slog of a show to go through, right? Which is why I rated it so low, because I just didn't like. I just thought it was all edge, no point. And why I, in turn, rated Fidanchi when we reviewed that, which was a couple weeks ago now, like, why I reviewed that so highly in comparison, because there is one thing a show can do that kills it, in my view. And that is either be aggressively bad or drag unbelievably. Right? And so the thing is, with Endro, I think we gave that like a 5 or like where we were just sort of like, it's there. Was our review of Endro, it's a thing. And like with Angels of Death, this was actually actively bad. But if you read the manga or play the visual novel, it's actually probably quite good. So it's like an adaptation that let it down. So it's like the whole rating discussion is confusing because like it's hard in the world of anime, which is why you use your precision rating system, right? So you know what? You rate first this time because I think I rated last time. So you rate first this time. What's your rating?
Okay. I want to be strongest in the world. I'm trying to think because this show, like I've just illuminated, it presents you with like, it gives you the idea of what this. There's no, I can't in good. I obviously in good conscience and not giving this above a 50, right? So let's start there. Let's start that. As a baseline, this is not average. This is below average. So for the story, I'm going to give it a very strong 32 out of 100. Because the story sucked, but it was at least linear. Like, I didn't like it, but it basically had a story formed together. It just didn't do it very well, right?
It didn't do any of the time skippy, like, flashback bullshit that Angels of Death did. So, like...
I am going to give the characters 27 out of 100 because everything I've said, right? Like, this was rough. This was rough. I did not like the characters a lot. And, like, despite, like, obviously, like, me saying that, like, Rio was the best? Yeah, like, apart from that, I'm just... Yep. Visuals, I'm giving a 42 out of 100 because they were passable, but they were still meh. And as for enjoyment, I am going to give this a flat 20.
Oof, it might be Ibby's worst rating, ladies and gentlemen.
This gives us an average, a very neat average, mind you, of 30 out of 100.
He's given it his lowest rating. It's a 3, the lowest rated show. So this, I will put forward this. This show is worse across the board than Yuden-chan, despite the fact that I find like Yuden-chan inherently more offensive, right? Like, that show will remain to me to be, in like terms of actual material, I think it's abhorrent. I think it's like I think it's fucked, right? This is an example of what a bad show in terms of actual bad writing looks like. So you rated this lower, I think, in terms of actual average. I think like Yuden-chan from you got something like 33, 34. So actually I think this is your worst show.
I think it's marginally different, but they're pretty close.
Okay. So how do I feel about this show? The animation, meh. Perfectly serviceable. Fan service, with the exception of the Blu-ray specials, which I said I'm going to watch for science. I'm betting the Blu-ray specials are going to be higher quality, and I'm betting they're going to be horny as hell. Right? They're going to be straight hentai almost. Right? So I'm going to be kinder on the fan service than Ivy here. I'm going to say the fan service was okay, and there was some decent moments, and the girls were all hot, I think. Like,
they were also all adults, which is a prop, which is a pro. Apart from the junior.
The junior, but the junior, amazingly enough, wasn't as sexualized as the others, and she was very sort of...
They did panty shot her on at least 2 occasions, I think.
Yeah, I think so, but Dude, we're in deep in anime world, man. We just have to accept that as a fact of life at this point.
Yeah, good point.
Like, we've seen a lot worse.
Yeah, we have.
So, you know, like, on the whole, they're all grown-ups for the most part. They're all well-built, shall we say. They're all well-equipped. And when they're in their wrestling outfits, they look really attractive. And they're really well done, like, that way. And so, you know, fan service, yeah. And you get the sneaky, uncensored shower scenes. So, yeah, fan service, pretty decent, I think, overall. Not as good. Like, if you're going in for fan service, ironically enough, sentences I never thought I'd say after watching it, go watch Valkyrie Drive or Food Wars if you want fan service, because that fan service is a lot higher quality than the stuff here, but for its time, pretty racy for its time, right? Music is the one sticking point I have that I don't like, because this is an idol anime as well. I was expecting the idol group to have some smash behind them, but they don't. They have one song, and they don't show up much. And the music and the sort of atmosphere of the show doesn't change. And I don't even remember the opening. I don't even remember any of the tracks in the background. The music is just complete. I forget it's there.
The fact that we didn't even talk about it is because I forgot that this show actually had music in the background, and all I remember is that it was really generic.
It was really generic. I don't even remember the ending. I don't think we even watched an ending at all. I can't remember. No, we never watched the ending. I skipped the ending every time.
I listened to the ending. It was it was their show. It was their song.
Yeah.
They're like, it was fanfare.
Yeah,
for most of it, and then there was one episode where it wasn't, and that one was still bad.
Okay.
I mean, average, but you know,
yeah, you know, it's
like, and when we mentioned off before when we were joking about it ripping off No Game No Life, it should be emphasized the No Game No Life song is infinitely better.
Yeah,
like it does use like the same melodies and stuff, but it does it better.
Yeah, 100%. And so music, animation, fan service, good. Characters, I liked them, but I liked them in the way that I like a character in slice of life anime, which is I like them because I like that type of character rather than that character themselves, right? So I didn't like Koei as a character. I liked the spunky Kohai who just happened to be Koei, right? I liked Kazuma Rio because she is the dark-skinned, serious, badass anime girl. Not because she's Kazuma Rio. If you get what I'm going with that, you know what I mean? Like, So, and Sakura just there. She's boobs. Sakura is boobs. She's pro tag and boobs. That's it. That's all she is. Like, Elena is a million times more interesting. As I said, if the anime was about her story, it would have been so much better. But it all comes down to one thing, which is the wrestling component. A lot of the fights were annoying and dragged out. But when the fights were actually happening, and there was a proper fight going on, and Sakura was fighting back, and especially the fights that you saw from the other wrestlers against other wrestlers, there were a couple of those in there. Right? They were a blast to watch. They were fun. When the fights actually became a fight, instead of being ow, 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 itai, when the fights were actually being a fight, I was enjoying the hell out of it. And so here comes the ultimate moment. Where am I going to put Wanna Be Strongest in the World on my anime list? In terms of actual score as an anime, I'm giving it a 4. That's how many points it gets from me as an anime. 4.
But
when I factor in my own personal enjoyment and how much fun I had watching it, I'm giving Wanna Be Strongest in the World a score of 7 out of 10.
So that gives us a 4-point gap in evaluation.
Yep, I'm giving it 3 extra points on personal enjoyment alone, because when I add all of those factors together, would I have binged this in one sitting if I was watching it on my own? Yes, I would have. Because despite it all, it's still an ecchi sports idol anime. and the wrestling was fun. And as a result, I have to give it high points on personal enjoyment. I just do. Because despite all my complaints about it and all my criticisms, as a whole package, we got a lot of anime for 12 episodes, in my opinion. And so, I had a lot of fun. I genuinely had a lot of fun watching it. That's the problem with the rating system. When we think about, like, when you factor in personal enjoyment, I have to be honest, like, I'm giving it a 7 when I factor in my personal enjoyment. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? Just in deference to the professionalism we expect on this podcast, and to prevent Ivy from having an aneurysm, when I do a cross-reference average between my personal enjoyment and my score, my professional rating for this anime is 6 out of 10. So double Ivy's score.
Still double my score.
Yeah. But I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 when I average out my personal enjoyment and the show's quality. Oh, it was a lot of fun watching this. I had a ton of fun. It was just so much fun.
I feel like that should really be emphasized to the audience. And if it would be funny for the audience to have watched the difference between our various responses, because I was like reasonably into it as we started the show, but by about, I think it was at episode 10, I was barely like there. Like, I was just like crawling.
He was actually shitposting on Twitter. I could hear him typing in the background 90% of the time in the other half of the episodes. Like,
yeah, I have a big I have a big screen, and I keep the anime on one screen, half the screen, and then like whatever I'm doing on the other half. So I was doing that while I was doing it, and yeah, I ended up rewatching some of the episodes just to make sure I got everything before we did this. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's now the fun part of this podcast. The good
Hell
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, random anime generator. Oh,
Let's
God.
do this.
It's my turn this time. Am I gonna roll trash?
What do you got for us? What have you got for us? Random anime generator, hear my cry. I want something from 1980 or 1990. Let's go.
Oh!
Cute.
Oh, a modern show, no less. A modern show, no less.
Instead of it just didn't listen to me at all, and it's given us a show that a lot of people here would be aware of. I shaved and then took a high school go home.
Yeah. Ige Hiro. After being rejected, I shaved and took in a high school runaway.
Yep.
13 episodes, came out in 2021. Well, the one thing that I can say is I'm kind of disappointed in a weird way that we got this. Purely because from the reviews I've heard, this is actually going to be good. And we're not going to be able to be mean about it, because I
mean, the most controversial thing in here is that you can argue about the ethics of like taking in children who are underage into your house that you are not related to.
Yeah, but as far as I'm aware, like at least from the plot we've been hearing, like on the scuttlebutt that came out when this show came out, that their relationship is actually really, really wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. I obviously haven't finished the light, and I didn't pay attention to the spoilers or anything for the end of it. So I'm ready to go into this sort of as blind as you can and just have some fun with it, I guess.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, look, we're actually going to be watching a recent show, and it's going to be also a high quality one. So
literally 2021, very recent.
I can't complain about it, but as I said, a little part of me is disappointed because I was hoping we'd get something else like from like the mid 2000s, which was like really, really crap that everyone forgot about. But this is a pretty big name series, so we're actually watching something. I'm shuddering even saying these words. Mainstream, Ivy. Ugh. Normie anime. What is this? We started this podcast to get away from normie anime. But we'll find out. Anyway, I've been Pac-Man.
I am, as always, V.
A very angry man. The angriest man on Earth. Angry man who refuses to die, Ivy.
Who recently got his blood pressure checked, and it's lower than most people. That's right. I'm angry all the time, and I'm sort of healthier than you in that regard, at least.
Yeah. That's proof God is dead. I'll see you all later.
Know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk. you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting.